welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at a legend team around Shadow Magnezone for the Great League. This is going to be a team from ValorAsh, and also, what I can say here right now, we're going to battle today Zionic in this video, which is something that I don't think we really have done for years at least. I think I actually battled him once before, but yeah, that's going to be in today's video as well, randomly queued up against them in the Go Battle League here, which is kind of funny. So we're gonna take a look here at the team, going to be a Talonflame in the lead, which is kind of funny. Of course, if you don't have Talonflame, I guess something like a Charizard also works out well, but Talonflame is actually fairly cool, which I also made a video about already. Because of all the Steelix that are around, you're going to be able to do some decent damage against them. As well as you're going to have a better matchup against the Alolan Sandslash, which is also nice. Doesn't really matter too much for this team. Also, I'm using the Shadow Swampert. They were using the normal Swampert. I would recommend you to use a normal Swampert. I just don't have a normal Swampert for the Great League, so this is why I went for the Shadow variant. Still, Shadow variant works out super well. And I feel like you can do the same also for Magnezone. If you have a normal Magnezone, should work out as well here for this team. But generally, if you need to swap, I would swap as a safe swap into the Swampert. Swampert safe swap is surprisingly decent right now. I mean, it's actually not that surprising. Like, Swampert only has a 1 weakness in grass, and while grass is fairly common, it's usually common in the lead and not really that much in the back. So it's kind of a decent one to play right now. Here we're going to see one of the main benefits of having the Talonflame, being able to beat those Steelix there. But of course, the opponent made a great catch onto the Gligar, but still, we're going to always be able to realign here. No matter what they're going to do, they're going to use a shield. I'm going to use a shield. I'm always going to be able to outspeed the opponent's Gligar. There's nothing they can do about it. Of course, was a little bit awkward for us that they were able to catch the move, but they even go for the dig here, which I was able to shield up, and like this, I can realign, and we're gonna get out the Pelipper, which of course is going to be nice for me, as the opponent is now going to have to face basically the Magnezone with their Pelipper, which is going to be cool. But still, it can be a little bit tricky because the opponent's still going to have their Steelix here, and we don't really have too much health on our Talonflame. I'm still going to let this, I'm actually going to shield this first move up, and we're still going to have to hit some flame charges here. I can still take one move here for sure, but I make a mistake here because I should have went for my other charge move before, and like this, I'm going to lose this game sadly, because the opponent is going to be able to get to an Earthquake in time, and this was only my fault. If I just went straight for my charge move, I would have been totally fine, because I would have been able to just get to another mirror shot here, of course, which would be able to knock out the opponent's Steelix, but maybe we can do it better in this game here, which is coming up. But definitely one of the bigger misplays of me. But again, like, those battles were played during the Go Battle Day, and the Go Battle Day was fairly long, so you're going to see a lot of misplays by me as well. Just kind of human, I guess, like that you're going to not play perfectly after 100 battles. I feel like Go Battle Day is too long in my opinion. Like, maybe just do it for 4 days, but then do 10 sets per day. I feel like this would be way more balanced than doing 2 days with 20 battles. I feel like 20 battles is just so much. Of course, nobody is forced to do those battles for sure. Like, don't get me wrong, I know that you're not forced to do it, but of course I kind of want to do them all, and I feel like it's always kind of a little bit too much. Here we're going to be able to correctly bait the opponent there, but they're going to decide to swap out into their Steelix, which I gladly take. Goodbye Steelix, we can go for an Earthquake and we're gonna knock them out. But in comes now the Gligar, which is going to be a tough one because we're only going to have our Talonflame here left really, and we're going to still have our Magnezone, but as we can see here, this did not do enough damage. Maybe I should have tried to go for two flame charges, but I decided to go for my mirror shot here, which is going to get the knockout against the opponent. And here's the cool thing in general about Magnezone: if you want to play this Pokemon, you're going to be able to need basically in total 5 volt switches to get to 1 mirror shot as well as 1 wild charge, which is not that much. Like, that's literally very, very cheap to get to, so you can basically get to 2 moves after 5 fast move, which is really cool. Here we're going to have a horrible lead, but of course we're going to have great safe swaps for this, or like swaps in general, because our Magnezone going to be able to beat the Carbink as well, especially with a double super effective mirror shot. But here we're gonna get out the opponent's Shadow Sableye, and this is the benefit of having a Shadow Swampert against Shadow Sableye. You're going to always be able to realign the Pokemon, and of course with the lead that we had, we definitely want to realign our Pokemon here. So what we can do here is we can just use another shield, and we're gonna be able to get the knockout here with the Hydro Cannon, which sometimes is a little bit close. We have, for example, normal Swampert against normal Sableye, because you just don't do as much damage. But still, we're going to be able to realign, and we're gonna get out the Talonflame now against the opponent's Medicham. They can go for a charge move here, but I expect them to swap outside. Don't press my Brave Bird immediately. And of course we are right, and we can swap into our Magnezone, which can just go for the Mirror Shot, which is gonna do only around like 50%. because here you can see it. Mirror Shot is a very bad move. Mirror Shot is only a 35 energy move, 35 energy, but also 35 damage move, so it does basically next to no damage, but still it doesn't really matter too much, as we can still go for another Mirror Shot here, which is gonna get the knockout, and we can still go for a Wild Charge, which serves two places here, trying to get the knockout against the Medicham, which doesn't really work out here too much, but also try to get the opponent not too much farm, which also doesn't really matter because we had a Brave Bird start, but still the better play to go for. You're gonna see the opponent swapping into their Sableye. Again, you can usually outspeed them with your Swampert, but of course here we were able to, we were a little bit late there basically. We're gonna be able to still go for a Hydro Cannon. This Hydro Cannon is gonna do some decent damage if it connects, but I still have to go for another one immediately because the opponent going to be another move. But they're going to let this move go through as well because they know otherwise I could farm them down if they would use a shield here. So at least we can realign, which is kind of important because I don't want to have the Medicham against our Magnezone in the back. We had some lag there as well, which is not really ideal. But I try to go for the Earthquake. Great play, I guess, from the opponent to then throw their charge move prior. But here we're gonna see the opponent going for a Psychic, gonna do some decent damage. I can still try to go for my 2 Flame Charges here, which hopefully the opponent is going to no shield, but they decide to shield this one up, and I can still go for a Brave Bird. And they also going to decide to shield this one up. Never mind, they don't, and we can swap out now into our Magnezone. We can go for the Mirror Shot bait here, which is exactly what we're going to have to do here, by the way, because if we don't go for the bait, we are most likely going to get outsped by the opponent with their Draw Run, and here we're going to be able to still get the shield from the opponent. We were perfectly able to still get to the Wild Charge, which is going to claim the knockout against the opponent. Next opponent, going to be Alolan Sandslash in the lead. This is exactly what we want to face, especially as we're going to be very good against this Pokemon also in the back, so I don't have to swap out here, especially with a Medicham coming in. We're going to be able to just go and take the Psychic and go for 2 Brave Birds, which would be enough to knock out at least the opponent or get both shields from the opponent. Both of them I'm fine with. We're going to get the knockout, and I can decide to stay in here as the opponent decides to swap in to their Sandslash. So we're not only going to get the knockout, we're also going to get a shield advantage because they are forced to shield this Flame Charge up. As well as we're going to get some damage onto the opponent as we can swap out into our Swampert. I can use a shield if I want to, and I kind of do want to, but I don't do it here right now. So we're going to use our Hydro Cannon, which is coming up against the Zoom Roll, which is fine as I can swap out into my Magnezone. We're still in a very easy spot here. Just a 1 Wild Charge is all it takes to knock out the opponent's Zoom Roll anyway. And as we're going to see here, the opponent going to let this move go through, and now I can just go for the Mirror Shot spam because, like, yeah, what is the opponent going to do here? They're going to let this move go through, but the damage output of Volt Switch is just too much for the opponent anyway. Next opponent, Alolan Ninetales in the lead. Fairly decent force, a little bit more awkward, of course, with Powder Snow, and you're going to see here as well why. I don't play this perfectly. You should just go straight for this one. Here, this is like one of my habits, which I don't really like, to be fair, and which I think is kind of wrong to do. Is I always try to basically align my fast move perfectly, but in this case, it's better to just go for the Flame Charge and take the shield or the knockout. Here, I'm going to get the knockout, but in the back, they're going to have a Swampert, which is also really tough for this team to deal with, by the way. Swampert is just a very tricky Pokemon for this one. I'm going to actually use another... No, I'm actually going to let this move go through, hoping that they're going to stay in with their Swampert so I can still go ahead and get some Hydro Cannon damage onto them. They're going to always outspeed me, but I should be able to at least still survive 1 Hydro Cannon, but they decide to swap out and it's going to be a Venusaur. And again, I don't play it perfect here. I just gonna try to go for the Mirror Shot afterwards. And I should go straight for 2 Mirror Shots here, which I, as you're going to see here as well, will not do. But, yeah, I don't know. I should just go straight for another one. I would have put the opponent into farm down range for my Magnezone, which would have been cool, but yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit of a trickier one. Definitely misplayed it hard in the beginning, so that's definitely on me. Next one, going to be another Alolan Ninetales. This time around, most likely with Charm, as the opponent decides to swap out into a Diggersby. This is just going to be a Scorching Sand, so I'm going to let this move go through, and it's still a little bit awkward because actually Diggersby with Quick Attack and Scorching Sand, if you let the first move go through, they can realign if they want to, especially as they can still survive in Hydro Cannon. And I'm going to be forced to use a shield here in order to get another, like, basically get more damage onto the opponent. But as you're going to see, I'm not even going to be able to get to another Hydro Cannon afterwards, which is really awkward because now we can go into our Talonflame. We know that they're running Fire Punch plus the Scorching Sand, which is both not really going to do too much damage against me. And you're going to get all this matched up with a Brave Bird, but sadly they're going to have a Toxapex in the back, which is going to be a hard counter to my lead. But it doesn't really matter because I have my Magnezone. And yes, Magnezone is also going to be a hard answer for the Ninetales. And as you're going to see this, I'm going to nearly one-shot them most likely. They're going to use a shield, so it doesn't really matter. But what I can do is I can just overfarm by quite a lot. I'm just going to go for like 3 more maybe even. Yeah, no, 3 more fast moves there are going to allow me to get to 2 wild charges, but I can still go for the mirror shot here, which definitely get the KO for sure there. But I can just go for the wild charge now against the Toxapex, and after the Brave Bird, this is all it takes to knock them out, and we can move on to the next game. We're going to encounter here Talonflame against Serperior. Great lead for us. This is going to be very decent for us as the opponent decides to swap out into the Lickitung. I decide to just go for a Brave Bird and do some decent damage while I can go into my Swampert now, or I can go into my Magnezone. Magnezone can resist the charge move, Swampert can just basically avoid the Serperior, which might be a little bit better. So maybe this was not the right call. They're gonna go for the Power Whip, I can go for the Wild Charge, this should get the knockout hopefully, but I'm not sure about it. Let's see if it's going to be enough. It's going to be enough, and we see the Serperior coming back in, so I'm gonna go for another Wild Charge, which does way more damage than the Mirror Shot, but they can just farm me all the way down. Now we just have to hope there's something in the back that we can deal with, and it would be the Lantern, but I make a little bit of a mistake there, I guess. I should just go ahead and go straight into my Swampert, and I should have waited out a little bit longer beforehand. But like this, the opponent can just go ahead and go for the Surf, and it's not really looking too great for us as we're going to be forced to go for the Hydro Cannon here. But the opponent makes, I think, a great play by going for the shield, and I can still go for another one, but it's still not looking too good. But I just have to try to get them into range where I can go do something with my Talonflame, which hopefully is the case now, as the opponent is going to go for the Surf. I'm just going to go spam the Flame Charge. It should get the knockout against the opponent here. And as long as I get another fast move in, I should be fine as I still have a shield. And yes, we're going to be fine here. Just going to use the shield against the opponent. This Aerial Aces wouldn't have knocked me out anyway, and that's going to be the knockout. And now upcoming the battle for which everybody waited for against Zionic. Let's take a look at the team here. We're going to have the Gligar against our Talonflame. This is going to be okay for us. It's not the greatest, but they decide to swap immediately into the Dugong, which I definitely take. So they have most likely an ABB line trying to bait out something like the Medicham, I would guess. But they went straight for the Drill Run, which is fine for me. I can just overfarm by a little bit and go straight for my Wild Charge, getting the knockout. But this is a cool thing about Magnezone against Gligar. It's only single resisted, and single resisted Wild Charge is still going to hurt quite a bit, which Zionic going to know anyway, as they're going to use a shield here. I'm going to be able to still get to another charge move though, which is going to do a lot of damage. I can try to go for the Mirror Shot, but they are smart enough to go for their own charge move. So it's still a very close game here, as they're going to go into their final Pokemon being the Lantern. So they were actually not double weak to Medicham, but they, I guess, wanted to bait out a potential Grass-type Pokemon, which does make sense. But here we were able to just get up and go for one Hydro Cannon, which they decide to shield up, which is of course amazing for us. And this shield bait was exactly what's going to help us to win this game, as we can just go for the Brave Bird, and at this point of time, the Gligar will not be able to deal with our Talonflame in the back anymore. I still can try to go for Hydro Cannon. They're still going to try their best to win this game, but there is no lot that they can do about it, as we can just go for the Brave Bird. Of course, it wouldn't be Zionic if he wouldn't try to go for the Big Boom, which would be the dig here, but of course this does not really help them out too much, so good game to them. Definitely check out that channel, but I guess you already know that channel anyway. Also, big shoutouts to Zionic in general. Was basically one of the first people basically promoting my channel and helping me to grow back in the day, so never forget this. Very nice dude as well in real life. Very cool dude, can only say nice words about him. Next one, we're going to see here the Diggersby against us. This is going to be again a little bit of an awkward matchup, but I expect a Hyper Beam here, and it was a Hyper Beam, which of course is going to be nice for me, but I was a little bit too greedy for the final game here. Going to overfarm by a little bit too much with our Swampert. As we see the Scorching Sands coming through, I can still just go ahead and go for the big Hydro Cannon and knocking them out and realigning my Pokemon, as we will most likely see again the Frosters coming in. Exactly. I can go for 2 Hydro Cannons, which is going to force a shield from the opponent or get the knockout. Either of them I'm fine with, and we will see here, of course, most likely the shield coming up. I think they're going to keep their energy alive. Exactly. I can go back into my Talonflame. I'm going to let this move go through because I have to keep my shield for the Magnezone in the back. Magnezone without shield is a little bit tricky, and it was definitely the right call, as I decided to go straight for the Brave Bird here. Why would I go for the Brave Bird? for it, because this is going to get the opponent into range for 1 wild charge, but also maybe even just for my fast moves alone, which would be interesting. So here I decided to go up to a mirror shot plus a wild charge to see if I can knock them out with that and go for the bait first, and it does work out. And like this, we're going to be able to win this final game as well. Great team here by ValorAsh, definitely something that you should try out for sure. And this is going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.